Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to the session of Textual Study of the Quran. As you would recall, we are studying Surah Araf, which is the second surah of the second chapter of the Quran. In this surah, the Quraysh are taken to task and they are reminded of the stories and accounts of the previous nations. And all of these nations towards whom prophets were sent were very well known to the Arabs. And so they knew the fate that they met. So they are being reminded that if they follow in their footsteps and they deny their messenger and not listen to him, then their fate is not going to be any different. So we start off with verse 94. It says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا أَخَذْنَا أَهْلَهَا بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَضَّرَّعُونَ. In whichever settlement we have sent a prophet as a messenger, we have inflicted its inhabitants with financial and corporal trials, so that they may show humility. Again, this is a very accustomed tradition in the terms of the Almighty. When He sends His messengers, prophets who are messengers, then this is something which is bound to happen. People who are His addressees, they are inflicted with trials, and al-ba'sa wad-dharra. So the first of them refers to financial and the second refers to bodily or corporal trials. So people are financially constrained also, and they are also put to test as far as their as various ailments are concerned. And the reason is لَعَلَّهُمْ يَضَّرَّعُونَ, so that they may show humility. This is a statement, of course, as I've just said, of an established practice of God that necessarily manifests itself after the advent of God's messengers. And as per this divine practice, when a prophet begins asking people to repent or face God's wrath, factors which facilitate this call, they also start to appear in this universe. On the one hand, a prophet warns people of the consequences of negligence, forgetting God, and spreading anarchy in the land, as well as of God's punishment in this world. And the next, of course, that will continue. And on the other hand, the Almighty inflicts people with trials of famines and epidemics and storms, so that people can see, if they have insight, that in this manner God can seize them whenever He wants to, and then none but only God can save them. And in this way, events corroborate the prophetic call, and the effect of visual observation strengthens the evidence found in human intellect and nature. So we can say that it is as if the heavens and the earth display whatever a prophet says, so that those who have even the slightest ability to be influenced, they bend and acquiesce before God and reform themselves. So this is an established practice of God, and it is actually meant to create this humility in people and make them realize what they are doing. So the thing is that we have to understand that all these incidents that occur in the lifetime of a messenger of God are basically meant to jolt and shake people and make them realize what they are doing wrongly. ثم بدلنا مكان السيئة الحسنة حتى عفوا وقالوا قد مس آباءنا الضراء والسراء فأخذناهم بغتة وهم لا يشعرون. Then we changed their sorrow into happiness until they greatly prospered, and said, good and bad days did come to our forefathers as well. Ultimately, we seized them all of a sudden, while they were not even aware. So this is the other aspect of the established practice of God, which is just referred to in the previous verse, that when people do not benefit from the trials which are mentioned, and instead of paying heed to them, they actually shut their minds and hearts. Now God gives them reprieve, so that people who are not awakened by the admonition, they are lulled to even deeper slumber because of the luxuries that they enjoy. So this is like giving them more time and more reprieve. And the torment of God seizes them at a time when they do not even know when and where it can come from. So when it comes, prosperity replaces decadence, development and abundance of resources prevail, and the days of travail and trial are erased from the minds. And these arrogant people start to be merry and make fun of the Prophet and his companions. They think that, God forbid, these naive people regard the previous famine or flood or some calamity to be the result of their deeds, and warn them in various ways, and they strike weakness in their hearts. Whereas, what have these things got to do with faith and morality? So this is what they would say. Such change of fortunes do come in the life of nations. It is not that only they have encountered such problems, their forefathers too, who were good and pious, they also went through them. So this is something that has to be fully understood. And then it is said that when this happens, then when we change their sorrow into happiness until they greatly prospered, good and bad days did come to our forefathers as well. So this is how they would make an excuse that, well, this change of fortune is not something to do with morality. It is something to do with just chance happening. And good and bad days, they come and go. And similarly, they struck our forefathers as well. So if they have come again, we don't need to be worried about them because they're going to go away. And this is like a cycle that's going to go on. But God says ultimately we seize them all of a sudden while they were not even aware. So this is something that is going to happen, that in spite of making all these excuses, these lame excuses, they will not realize that a time will come when they will be seized quite accidentally and they will not even be expecting it. ولو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء والأرض لكن كذبوا فأخذناهم بما كانوا يكسبون. In reality, had the people of these settlements professed faith and adhered to piety, we would have opened the doors of blessings of the heavens and the earth, but they denied, so we too seized them because of their misdeeds. So again, the implication is that just as the consequence of denying messengers of God is facing punishment in this world, in a similar way, if his message is accepted, the blessings of the heavens and the earth, they are necessarily acquired by them. And this is a established practice of God, and it will remain force all the time. And of course, the last time that it was going to happen, and it did happen, was in the times of Prophet Muhammad himself. This was its last manifestation, after which it has become proven with full certainty that one day reward and punishment will also manifest themselves like this in the hereafter. Again, it is something that has to be fully understood, that the blessings of God are something that are going to simply engulf people. They are going to embrace them from all sides if they are in this situation and they encounter a prophet of God and they profess faith in him. أَفَأَمِنَ أَهْلُ الْقُرَىٰ أَنْ يَأْتِيَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا بَيَاتًا وَهُمْ نَائِمُونَ أَفَأَمِنَ أَهْلُ الْقُرَىٰ أَنْ يَأْتِيَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا ضُحًى وَهُمْ يَلْعَبُونَ. Then tell us whether the people of these settlements could remain secure from our torment, that it may visit them at night while they are fast asleep. So again, whether they are fast asleep or whatever they are doing, so the next verse actually tells us, or could the people of the settlements remain secure from our torment, that it may come to them right in daytime when they would be involved in playing. So in other words, what is being said in these two verses is that whether it is night or day, whenever it will come, they will not be able to save themselves. And then what will the Quraysh do if such a torment visits them? So that is why there is this threatening tone, this warning that you can see, which exudes these two verses, that how can they secure themselves? And then this tone continues, أَفَأَمِنُوا مَكْرَ اللَّهِ فَلَا يَأْمَنُوا مَكْرَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Then were they secure from God's plan? So remember that only those people think that they are secure from God's plan who are to become losers. So this is how the Quran has said that people who would like to make a plan, and that is a plot, which is a secret plan, and that is precisely what the word makr means in Arabic. And here actually it means that God seizes a person from where he cannot even imagine. So that is what it is said, that were they secure from God's plan? So remember, only those people think that they are secure from God's plan who are to become losers. So the established practice which we have just discussed, in which God gives a spite to a person after warning him, is an example of the secret plan. People think that they have succeeded, but in reality they are being given this reprieve, they are being given this respite so that they can make hay and further gain in the evil machination that they are doing. And then once they have done their due, then the Almighty is going to seize them once and for all. أَوَلَمْ يَهْدِ لِلَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْأَرْضَ مِنْ بَعْدِ أَهْلِهَا أَنْ لَوْ نَشَاءُ أَصَبْنَاهُمْ بِذُنُوبِهِمْ وَنَطْبَعُ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ. Did this not teach a lesson to those who inherit the earth from its previous inhabitants, that had we intended, we could have seized them too because of their sins? No, they never seek a lesson. And as a result of this, we put a seal on their hearts, then they are not able to hear anything. So when it is said that had we intended, we could have seized them too because of their sins. So the reference, of course, is to the fact that the Quraysh were the ones who were thinking that this respite is going in their favor. Now, in spite of the fact that the reference is to the Quraysh, the words that are used, you can see they are very general as to why the succeeding generations did not learn from the fate of the preceding ones, and why they did not think that just as God had seized them, He can seize the later generations as well. And then it is said that when God has put a seal on their hearts and they are not able to hear anything, this seal is actually set on their hearts because of their sin of not learning from the fate of the previous people and following the ways of people who have deviated from the path of God. So this seal is like a forerunner to the torment of God. It doesn't mean that people are born with this seal. They earn this seal as a punishment. And after this, a person gets further entangled in the web of obduracy and stubbornness. So much so that even after seeing the signs of God, his heart does not open for the truth, and he refuses to even hear the prophets of God. So this is like a punishment, as I said, to seal their hearts. The Quran has described this situation in which guidance will not enter their hearts and minds because God has stopped it from entering. Seal, of course, is a figurative use telling us that their hearts are no longer acceptable. They don't have the potential to accept what truth and goodness is because of their evil deeds. So the fact is, تلك القرى نقص عليك من أنبائها ولقد جاءتهم رسلهم بالبينات فما كانوا ليؤمنوا بما كذبوا من قبل كذلك يتبع على قلوب الكافرين. These are the settlements, a part of whose tale we are narrating before you. Their messengers had come to them with open signs, but it did not happen that they accepted faith because they had been denying earlier. In such a manner, God seals the hearts of the disbelievers. So now this is a further explanation of when hearts are sealed and what are the type of people whose hearts are sealed. The verse states that those who were denying God's revelations and signs from before are the ones whose hearts are sealed. So basically it is a person's trait that when he habitually and compulsively denies and deviates from the general signs of the Almighty, gradually his heart becomes callous and hardened. So much so that if special signs are shown by God's messengers, even then such people are not moved. They are the least affected by these signs. So the verse states that this is how God seals the hearts of people. The task of the heart is to reflect and to draw lessons. If a group becomes a blind follower of its wishes and even reminders and admonitions do not awaken it, then the ears of people belonging to this group become deaf. They become deaf. They are devoid of any sense of hearing. And of course, that is how we would understand that they have earned this punishment, and it's not something that they are given by birth. So this is something which is going to be a repercussion of their evil deeds. وَمَا وَجَدْنَا لِأَكْثَرِهِمْ مِنْ أَحْدٍ وَإِنَّا وَجَدْنَا أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَفَاسِقِينَ. In reality, in most of them, we did not find those who abide by promises. In fact, most of them we found to be those who break promises. So again, once they are told that these are the people that normally would make commitments and would never honor them. Now, in this particular case, it refers to the promise which the people of these settlements, which have been mentioned earlier, they made with their messengers that if in certain conditions are met and certain miracles are shown, they will accept faith. We know this is something which is brought up in the accounts of God's messengers. So in the account of Moses, in our previous surah, we have seen this, that they would say that they would accept faith if certain conditions are met and that they are shown certain miracles. So that is what is being referred to here. وَمَا وَجَدْنَا لِأَكْثَرِهِمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ. That in reality, in most of them, we did not find those who abide by promises. So the promise is, of course, the same commitment that I've just referred to, that they would ask their respective prophet that we promise to believe in you and your God if you show us miracles, if you show us certain signs. But God says that this is going to be of no use to them. because they're not going to listen to you and they're not going to honor their promises. ثم بعثنا من بعدهم موسى بآياتنا إلى فرعون وملئه فظلموا بها فانظر كيف كان عاقبة المفسدين. So now from here starts the episode of Moses and the Pharaoh. Now this is one of the longest episodes, or we can say it's the most discussed episodes in the Quran, because as the Quran has said at one place that Moses in reality was a messenger who was similar to Prophet Muhammad, and of course the most striking similarity was that both were given books which contained God's word, his Sharia, the Torah being given to Moses and the Quran being given to Prophet Muhammad. So it is being said that after them we sent Moses with our signs to the Pharaoh and his believers, but fanzur kayfa kana aqibatul mufsidin. But they were unjust to their souls and denied these signs, and observed the fate of those who have spread disorder. So the word, of course, is something that we can clearly see that God says that He sent Moses with His signs, and the actual word which is used for this is ayat. It refers, basically, if you go a little bit deeper, it refers to those intellectual and natural arguments, natural meaning drawn from human nature and the nature around human beings, which Moses and Aaron presented to the Pharaoh and his chiefs, as well as to the miracles which they showed to the Pharaoh and his people. So these are all signs that they showed. Other instances in the Quran we find that these details, of course, are something that are presented in more detail. So to the Pharaoh and his chiefs, when it is said that Moses was sent, so the word Pharaoh, of course, it's a title given to the kings of Egypt. The people of ancient Egypt regarded the sun to be their supreme god and their sovereign deity. It was called Ra, which is like Ra and Ain. And thus the word Fir'aun means the children of the son of God. So the actual word Fir'aun, which is pronounced as Pharaoh in the English language, it actually means the children of the sun god. So the word sun god, of course, is something to which the Pharaoh was associated, but Pharaoh meant that he was a child of the sun god. The kings of Egypt, they presented themselves as the corporal manifestations and earthly representatives of Ra, Ra being the sun god, and would vehemently tell people that they were the supreme gods of their own sovereign deities. And we know that that is how their own story went, that they wanted to strike awe in their minds and in their hearts. And this is how they said and told them that they are the son of the sun god, and hence they have to be worshipped as the sun god. So وَقَالَ مُوسَى يَا فِرْعَوْنُ إِنِّي رَسُولٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ حَقِيقٌ عَلَىٰ أَن لَا أَقُولَ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْحَقَّ قَدْ جِئْتُكُمْ بِبَيِّنَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ فَأَرْسِلْ مَعِيَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. Moses said, O Pharaoh, I have come from the Lord of the worlds. This is what I should do, and this is precisely my craving, that I say to you nothing from God but the truth. I have come to you from your Lord with a sure sign of this status of mine. So let the Israelites go with me. And of course, before even that is given some explanation, if you look at the previous verse, it says that observe the fate of those who spread disorder in the land. Now, this is like drawing the attention of the addressees of the Surah that the actual purpose of narrating this account, what is that? If rebelliousness is shown to God and His messengers, then the Quran calls it disorder. And the word mufsidin here is used for the Pharaoh and his chiefs in this meaning. So they were the ones who were rebelling against the directive of God. And the Quraysh are being directed that this is something that you are also doing. So the word mufsidin must also be kept in mind. And it is obvious when it is said, Haqiqun ala an la aqula ala Allahi illa al-haq. So this is Moses telling them that this is what I should do, which means that I have come from the Lord of the worlds, and this is precisely my craving, that I say to you nothing from God but the truth. So it is obvious that the person who is the messenger and representative of God and envoy of God is someone who is the most worthy of speaking on his behalf, and does not impute forgery on him because his knowledge is not biased, or it is not inflicted with any conjecture. It is something that he has directly heard from God, and Therefore, he is just transmitting what he has heard from God. And no one else can have the same fear of the extent of his accountability than the Prophet himself, because now he is speaking on behalf of God and speaking something which is exactly the same what he had acquired from the angel Gabriel, is something that he is always very, very careful about. So it is said that if you look at this, that I have come to your Lord, from your Lord, with a sure sign. Now this refers to the miracle of the staff and the white hand, which is mentioned if you will follow these verses ahead, you'll find them, and in Surah Taha in detail as well. So in order to send, in fact, the reason that Moses was sent with these miracles, and that too to a tyrannical and despotic ruler as the Pharaoh, it was essential that he be given such miracles and he also be able to demonstrate them at the very beginning. So the Pharaoh and his chiefs were led to at least listen to Moses. So remember the nature of these miracles that were given to Moses and Aaron. They were such, they were such marvelous, and they were such awe-inspiring that the Pharaoh was forced to actually lend an ear to Moses and Aaron. Otherwise, in the absence of these miracles, he would not have even listened. And what did Moses say? He said that, let the Israelites go with me. Let the Israelites go with me. Liberate them. So at other instances in the Quran, it is said that the demand was that this was the only demand which Moses actually made. And not only the demand which Moses made, besides this, in accordance with the general way of the practice of God's messenger, he also invited the Pharaoh and his chiefs to profess faith in monotheism. So it's not just the fact that he said that just let the Bani Israel go with me, but we know from other instances that not only he said this, but he invited the Pharaoh and his chiefs, which are mentioned here as Mullah, to profess faith in monotheism and in the hereafter, and to fear and be reminded of God. So with the help of his extraordinary miracles, he also conclusively communicated the truth to them, which is called as Itmam al-Hujjah. So the demand to take the Israelites with him was also not the demand of a nationalist leader to liberate his nation from slavery, as has been understood by some scholars. It was done to make the scheme of God materialize, according to which the progeny of Abraham was chosen for the global communication of religion and conclusive communication of the truth. So it was essential, as per the scheme, that they be settled in a certain place, which was to be made the headquarters, so to speak, or the center of their mission. And it is evident from the book, from the Bible, of course, the book of Exodus, that Moses did not explicate the full scheme to the Pharaoh. He did not divulge the reason that he was going to take, or he was demanding from the Pharaoh to take the Bani Israel with him. And so it was something that they just understood. And his courtiers were not fully aware of the scheme, and he only told them that they wanted to go to a distance of 3 days to the desert for the ritual of animal sacrifice, because it was intended to be slaughtered, was slaughtered in Egypt. They would have been stoned to death by the Egyptians, of course. That is something that we know clearly, that they would not have allowed this. So the only part of the scheme that he divulged was that he wanted to take the Israelites out at a distance of 3 days. But the real purpose was to settle them in a place. قال إن كنت جئت بآية فأت بها إن كنت من الصادقين فألقى عصاه فإذا هي ثعبان مبين. He replied, if you have brought a sign, present it if you are truthful. At this, Moses placed his staff on the ground, then it suddenly turned into a vibrant serpent, and he pulled out his hand from his arm slit, so it suddenly appeared dazzling to the onlookers. When the chiefs of the Pharaoh, قال الملأ من قوم فرعون إن هذا لساحر عليم, when the chiefs of the Pharaoh's nation saw this, they said, this person is a very adept magician. So first of all, you can see that what is being said here is that the staff of Moses, it became a serpent that was, that could not have been mistaken for anything else. It's not sort of a trick. It was an actual change of form. And the attribute of Mubin actually means that it could not have been doubted that it is anything else but the snake or the serpent. And also the second miracle that he showed was that he took out his hand from his arm slit and it appeared white. And that is something which he also showed it. and it would become, it was like a sign that both Moses, when he showed to the Pharaoh and his courtiers, they became bedazzled. They became dumbfounded because this is something that they could not have expected, except for someone who is really an envoy of God. And so, what was the reply? The reply was that this person is a very adept magician. He wants to expel you from your country. So the chiefs, this is what the chiefs told the Pharaoh, that he's not an ordinary magician. In fact, he's a very skillful one and is demanding to take the Israelites with him to organize them into an army and then attack the Pharaoh and his people and expel them from their country and take up the reins of power himself. This is what the courtiers gave a clue to Pharaoh, that don't let them go, otherwise they're going to organize themselves and attack. And this was a very logical conclusion, keeping in view the extraordinary personality of Moses and the large number of Israelites. So if this was a conjecture, it could have been very true, at least in their own minds. So it was quite probable that this was the actual opinion of the courtiers, and it is also possible that they could have been using this as a ploy to take people away from the call of Moses, so that they could think that this is something that is being done in a wrong spirit. يريد أن يخرجكم من أرضكم فماذا تأمرون. So what is being said is that he wants to expel you from your countries. So what is your opinion? So he is now asking their opinion. And then what did they reply? قالوا أرجه وأخاه وأرسل في مدائن حاشرين يأتوك بكل ساحر عليم. Then all of them advised the Pharaoh, put him off and his brother, and sent forth workers in every city, who gather and bring forth to you all adept magicians. So now this is something that they did, that they wanted to challenge Moses, because they thought that he is at least a magician, if not a prophet. They knew from this, because they knew the tricks of the trade, that this could not have been done by anyone else. So what is the suggestion that they gave? They said that, okay, you bring forth all the magicians of your country. يَأْتُوكَ بِكُلِّ سَاحِرٍ عَلِيمٍ. And then وَجَاءَ السَّحَرَةُ فِرْعَوْنَ قَالُوا إِنَّ لَنَا لَأَجْرًا إِن كُنَّا نَحْنُ الْغَالِبِينَ. Thus this is what was done. And the magicians came to the Pharaoh. They said, if we win, we shall certainly be rewarded abundantly. So again, this actually citation of the Quran shows that these magicians, they had this moral decadence and meanness. The implication was that, like professionals usually do, they expressed their hope for reward, and they did so in a very flattering way. So جاء السحرة فرعون قالوا إن لنا لأجرا إن كنا نحن الغالبين. So we do hope that we would be rewarded if we have been in any way, or if we are dominant over Pharaoh. And what did the Pharaoh reply? قال نعم وإنكم لمن المقربين. The Pharaoh replied, yes, surely, and you shall also be included among our favored ones. So the Pharaoh immediately said, yes, if you win the contest, if you are able to dominate Moses, then you will be my favored ones. Now this episode is still continuing. Inshallah, we will discuss the remaining part in our future sessions. And for now, if you have any questions, please raise them.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you, Dr. Saleem, for a wonderful explanation. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hands. I do not see any raised hands, or I do not see any chat questions. I'm still waiting on it, Dr. Saleem. If I could just have a couple of few seconds.
Sure. Yes.
Because sometimes. So, Dr. Saleem, what does it mean by, I'll ask you a question in the meantime. What does it mean when that Moses' hand turned white? What do we understand from that?
So, it was like a miracle. It was dazzling white, as if it had turned into something silverish, and it bedazzled people. So, just as, you could not imagine any person's hand dazzle and shine and shimmer as if it was made of crystal, as if it was made of diamond maybe, or anything that creates that aura around it, that it is something which is very, very awesome. So that is basically just a means to overawe the onlookers.
Okay. Imran, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. Thank you very much for your wonderful explanation. It sometimes is, confusing, or rather, like would make us inquisitive, like how Quran changes the topic, or like it brings in another challenging stories. Like, it was talking about Ad and Thamud and the Arab tribes and their history, and addressing the Quraysh, and all of a sudden started talking about Musa and Pharaoh, Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh, and why the story of Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh is just split in so many different surahs. So if you can shed some light on that, because people
Yeah.
can't grasp everything
Yeah.
from one place.
Yeah, so you see, first of all, if you look at the sequence of these stories, you'll see that it's generally a chronological sequence. I mean, the history of the prophets of God has been narrated coming in a sequential way, that historically nations were first. For example, Noah was mentioned, and of course Abraham and Lot, and then of course the Ad and the Samud. So these are all historically they came one after the other, and the last one to arrive was Moses. So basically, it's not that it's any disjointed sort of a thing. It's deeply connected. It's just all these important prophets about whom the Arabs knew very well. They are being narrated in a historical way, and the reason that Moses is discussed the most is the one that I just referred to earlier on, that he had a lot of similarity with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and at the same time his addressees were arrogant, like of course the Pharaoh and his chiefs. They had a very uncanny similarity with the addressees of the Prophet, who were the Quraysh, and Abu Lahab in particular, for example, could be singled out, and as well as Abu Jahl. So, and because of the fact that, like Prophet Muhammad, Moses was also a prophet or a messenger to whom a book was given. So remember, the real book that came before the Quran was actually the Torah, because the Injil was just a supplement to the Torah, and the Psalms also was a supplement. So basically, a book that was given in the form that we find a book to be, that was just the Torah. So if anything can be comparable to the Quran, it is the Torah. So again, this similarity is something that could have always struck more. Could have struck a chord in their hearts, because similarity is something about which people often they lend an ear, and they feel that they can draw a lesson. So that is why Moses is mentioned so abundantly all over the Quran.
And this, so one of the things you had mentioned, that Musa alayhi salam told the courtiers that he's going to be taking them out of the city into the desert for 3 days from the Exodus. Like, what was the festival that they were going to celebrate over there? Because if they had been doing it before that, or was this the first time that he was going to take them out so far out?
No, actually, this is not a festival. He thought that they would. He gave this impression, as I come to understand, that they were doing animal sacrifice, and this is something that they could not have done in Egypt, because, of course, of obvious reasons, that this is that was restricted there. So he gave. The Pharaoh thought that this was the purpose of him going out, but in fact, as Ustaz Ghamidi has said, the real reason was that he wanted to organize them. He wanted to take them to the land of Palestine, where he could have them settled, and where they ultimately went, as we know later on. So the reason was that he could go there, he could have them settled, and organize them in a situation that they could become a very, very well-disciplined community, and then, of course, do the job that God had cut out for them.
Okay, thank you.
So, Dr. Saleem, I have a quick question. Does the animal sacrifice have any link at all, or do we have any understanding if it has anything to do with how Hazrat Ibrahim sacrificed the slaughter of the animal, and then so do we as Muslims? Any connection to that, or no?
You're talking about the animal sacrifice that we offer?
No, the animal sacrifice that Moses was taking the Jews out to the desert. Does it have any connection to the sacrifice that Abraham did?
Of course, the animal sacrifice has always been offered for the same one reason, and that is that a person, when he sacrifices an animal, he actually says or commits this to God, that this is in lieu of my own life, that today I am sacrificing or slaughtering this animal as a symbol, and tomorrow, if my own life is needed, I'll not withhold my life. So basically, animal sacrifice always has the same same essence in it, that it is like presenting an animal and committing to God that this is just a commitment that I'm making, that I'm slaughtering a very dear animal, and tomorrow, if my own life is needed, just as I did not withhold my animal from you, I'm not going to withhold myself.
So, as Imran just asked, is there any history of that? happening before this particular
Of
incident
course,
that
and it
the
was
Jewish people used to do that?
Abraham was the first one to do that. I mean, this was much 1,000 years before Moses,
No,
like
any history.
700 years.
So any history of the people who were living in Egypt, who Moses was taking out, is there any history that they used to do that before, or no history of that at all?
It does seem that they were not allowed to do that.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I do not have any raised hands right now, Dr. Saleem, so we can move to the idiomatic translation, then maybe come back to questions when we have any.
Okay. So I'm going to start the literal translation and the idiomatic one as well, starting from Surah, from the verse 94. So ma arsalna fi qaryatin min nabi wa and ma not arsalna we sent fi in qaryatin a settlement min nabiyyin amongst a prophet illa except. So literally it would mean that we do not send any prophet to a city except, and what is that except? Illa akhazna, that we seize them. And who? Ahlaha, their inhabitants. Bil ba'sai, with trials which are financial in nature. Well, that ba'sa means financial trials, and zarra means corporal or physical trials. So we do not send any prophet in a settlement except that we take hold of their inhabitants, ahlaha bil ba'sai wad dharrai, with the trials of financial and corporal nature. And la'allahum, la'alla, so that whom they yaddarra'un, they show humility. So this is the reason of these trials, that they show humility and they bend down before God. Thumma, then, baddalna, we changed, makana sayyi'atil hasana, their sorrow or their grief with prosperity. Then we changed. So badalna means we changed. Summa is then. Makana in place. Sayya, their grief. Al hasana, with prosperity. Hatta, until. Afau, until they greatly prospered. Waqalu, and they said, Qad, indeed, massa, reached us. Aba'ana. Kad massa aba'ana would mean that good and bad days. So that is something that is being mentioned in the later part of the verse. Kad massa aba'ana az-zarra'u was-sarra'u. So kad, indeed, massa, reached aba'ana, our forefathers, az-zarra, again the same thing, which is physical trials, and sarra is something which is, of course, you can say a comfort. So these are like two opposite words, comfort and discomfort. So what they are saying is that indeed reached our forefathers zarra and sarra, which means trials and comfort. Both of them, they came to our forefathers. Fa, therefore, akhaznahum, we seized them, baghtatan, suddenly. We seized them suddenly. Wa, and whom they, la, not, yash'urun, in a position of awareness. So they were not even in a position of awareness. They did not even know this. We seized them suddenly. Wa, and law, if, anna, that, ahlul qura, the people of the cities, amanu, had professed faith. So had the people of the city professed faith, wattaqaw, wa, and ittaqaw, shown piety, wattaqaw, and shown piety, lafatahna, indeed we would have opened, alayhim, upon them, barakat, the blessings, minas samai, from the heavens, wal ard, and the earth. So we would have opened the doors of blessings from the heavens and the earth. Walakin, but, kazzabu, they denied. So this has not happened, they denied. Fa, therefore, akhaznahum, we seized them. We seized them. Bima, because, kanu, they were, yaksibun, earning. Obviously, the connotation is they were earning bad deeds. So basically, bima kanu yaksibun literally means because they were earning bad, they were earning something, and the fact that whatever they were earning was evil is understood from the context. Bima kanu yaksibun, because they were earning evil. Afa amina ahlul qura. Afa, so of course, fa is mentioned as then. Afa amina ahlul qura would mean the people of the qura, or the people of the settlements or the cities, have they remained secure? Do they think that they are secure? An, that ya'tiyahum, comes to them, ba'suna, or punishment, bayatan, at night, bayatan as at night, wa, and hum, they, na'imun, sleeping. So are they secure from our torment which can come to them at night, wa hum na'imun, while they are sleeping? Ava amina ahlul qura, ava amina, or amina ahlul qura, could the people of the settlements remain secure? Amina, remain secure. Ahlul qura, the people of the settlements, an, that ya'tiyahum, comes to them, ba'suna, our punishment, zuhan, zuhan means during the day, wa, and hum, they, yal'abun, running about. So are they secure? The people of these cities, are they secure that comes to them our punishment at daytime while they are running about or while they are playing? Afa aminu makrallah. Afa aminu would mean, so are they secure? Makrallah, from the scheme of God. Fa, therefore, la, not. Ya'manu, secure. Makrallah, the scheme of God. Illa, except. Al qawm, the nation. Al khasirun, who are going to become losers. So this is common. Khasirun would mean who are going to become losers. So only those people think that they are secure from God's secret plan, who think they who are to ultimately end up as losers. Al qawmul khasirun. Avalam, did not, yahdi, give guidance, lillazina, to those, yarisun al arda, who inherited, yarasuna, inherited, al arda, the earth, mimbad, after, ahliha, the previous people. So the literal meaning would be, the idiomatic meaning would be that did this not guide these people who inherited the earth from its previous nations? And what is that? An, that, law, if, nasha'u, we wanted, asabnahum, we would have seized them, bizunubihim, because of their sins. Because zunubihim, zunub is sins and him is there. So had we wanted, we would have seized them for their sins. Wa natba'u, wa, and natba'u, we would have sealed or placed a seal, ala, upon, qulubihim, their hearts. We would have placed a seal over their hearts. Fa, therefore, hum, they, la, not, yasma'un, listen. So we would have placed a seal on their hearts and they would not have been able to listen anything. Tilka, tilkal qura, these cities, naqussu alayka, naqussu, we narrate, alayka, upon you, min amba'iha, from their news. Min, from, amba is news, and he, ha, is there. So these are the cities whose news we narrate to you, referring to the Prophet. O Prophet, we narrate the news or the tale of these cities to you. Wa, and laqad, indeed, ja'at, whom, came to them, rusuluhum, their messengers. Rusul, messengers, whom, their messengers, bil bayyinat, with open signs. Bayinat, open signs. Fa, therefore, ma, not, kanu, was, liyu'minu, professed faith, bima kazzabu, because of what they denied, min qabl. So this would mean, but it did not take place that they accepted faith. Ma kanu liyu'minu, they did not accept faith, bima kazzabu min qabl, because they had been denying earlier on. So this is like a punishment, that did not profess faith because they had continued to deny min qabl, earlier on. Kazalika, in this way, yatba'u, seals, Allah, God, ala, upon, qulub, the hearts, al-kafirin, of the disbelievers. So in this way, God seals the hearts of the disbelievers. Wa, and, ma, not, wajadna, found them, li'aksarihim, the most of them, min ahadin, amongst, from their promise. So wajadna liaksarihim min ahadin would mean that we did not find those who among them could abide by their promises, who would fulfill the ahad's promise, min ahadin, who fulfill their promises. Wa, and in, if wajadna, we would have found aksarahum, most of them, lafasiqeen, those who are disobedient. So in fact, most of them we found so inna is actually is not wa in is actually inna, which means that it's like a shortened form of inna. So inna wajadna would mean, and indeed we found aktharahum, most of them, lafasiqeen, to be defiant. Thumma, then, basna, we sent, mim ba'dihim, after them, Musa, Moses. So after them we sent Moses, bi ayatina, with our signs, ila, towards Fir'auna, the Pharaoh, wa, and mala'ihi, mala, leaders, he, his. So then we sent Moses with our signs towards the Pharaoh and his chieftains. Fazalamu biha. Fazalamu biha would mean, but zalamu would mean that they were unjust. Biha, about them, which means that they did not show consent, and they in fact showed an unjust behavior. Fa, therefore, unzur, see. Fanzur, therefore see. Kaifa, how. Kana is aqiba, the fate. Al mufsideen, of those who spread disorder. So see what is the fate of those who spread disorder is like. Wa, and qala, said Musa, Moses. And Moses said, Ya Fir'aun, O Pharaoh, inni, I, Rasulun, am a messenger, min, from, Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds. I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. Haqiqun, ala, it is befitting, an, that, la aqulu, that I do not say, Allah, upon God, illa al-haq, except what is the truth. So it is only befitting that I only say that which is according to the truth regarding God. And what is that? Qad ji'tukum, qad, indeed, ji'tukum, I have come to you. Ji'tu, come, kum, to you. I have come, indeed I have come to you, with, bayyinatin, with a sign, min rabbikum, from your Lord. I have come with a sign from your Lord. Fa arsil, fa, therefore, arsil, send, ma'iya, with me, Bani Israel, the Israelites. So send with me the Israelites. Qala, so he said, in kunta ji'ta bi ayatin. So this is the Pharaoh speaking. He said, in kunta ji'ta bi ayatin. In kunta, if you, ji'ta has come, bi ayatin, with a sign, fa'ti biha, show it to us, present it to us. In, if, kunta, you, minas sadiqeen, among the truthful. So if you have come with a sign, then present it to us, if you are really truthful. Fa, therefore, alqa, dropped, asahu, his staff. So Moses dropped his staff on the floor, of course. Fa, therefore, iza, it became, and it became, faizahiya, and it became, sorban, serpent, mubin, absolutely clear. So it became a serpent that could not be mistaken for anything else. Unmistakably, it was a serpent or a snake. Wa, and nazara, he pulled out, yadahu, his hand. Fa'iza, and suddenly, fa'izahiya, and suddenly it became bayza, white, shining white, lin nazirin, for the onlookers, li, for nazirin, the lookers. So it became shining white for the onlookers. Qala, said, al mala'u, the leaders, min qawmi Fir'aun, from the nation of the Pharaoh. So the leaders from the nation of the Pharaoh said, inna, indeed, haza, this person, la sahirun, a great magician, alim, who is very knowledgeable. So the chiefs of the Pharaoh's nation said that this person, referring to Moses, this person is a very, very knowledgeable magician. Yuridu, he wants, and that yukhrijakum, to expel you, min ardikum, min, from ardikum, your place or your land. So he wants you to expel you from your land. Fa, therefore, ma, what, za, maza is what, ta'murun, do you suggest? So he wants to expel you from your country. So what is your opinion? What do you suggest? This is an opinion that he was asking. Famaza ta'murun, what do you? So this is they asking them that what do you suggest? So what did they reply? Qalu, they said, arjih, put him off, wa akhahu, and his brother. Who is his brother? Aaron. So put him off and his brother, which means that just delay, just buy some time. Arjih wa akha, wa and arsil, send a message. Fi al madain, in the cities. Hashirin, to gather. I mean, literally it would mean that send forth people. Fil madain, Medina is the singular, Madain is the plural. In every city, who gather. Hashirin, who gather. So send forth people who gather, which other words means that you just bring all those people. And what is that? Ya'tuka, to bring to you. Bikulle, every. Sahirin, magician. Alim, very adept. So what he's saying is that you send a message or send forth people in every city, fil madain, every city, to gather people, hashirin, to gather people, and ya'tuka, and to bring to you, bikulle sahirin alim, every adept magician, ask them to bring them to you. Wa, and ja'a, came. Saharatu, Sahara is the plural of Sahir, which means the magicians. Waja'a Saharatu, and the magicians came. Fir'auna, to Pharaoh. They arrived before the Pharaoh. Qalu, these magicians said, Inna, indeed, lana, for us, la'ajran, a great reward. If kunna, we, nahnu, us, ghalibin, dominant. So they said, indeed, for us will be a great reward if we are dominant. It's like asking for reward. Qala, the Pharaoh said, Naam, yes. Wa, and innakum, indeed you, lamin, amongst, al-muqarrabin, the near ones. So the Pharaoh said, yes, you will be rewarded. And what will be that reward? I will hold you very close to me. And now, of course, as we know that this tale is still continuing, and we'll complete it inshallah in our future sessions. But for the moment, if you have any further questions, you may raise them. Otherwise, we might just end the session.
Imran, please ask your question.
So Dr. Saleem, what's the difference between Medina and what's the other place?
Madian?
Madain.
No, Medina and Qura.
So, I mean, these are used synonymously also, but normally Qura or Qarya is the singular, and Madain is the singular. The singular is Medina. So, yes. Qarya and Medina, Qarya is a smaller settlement, and Medina is slightly bigger one.
I see. So it doesn't have to necessarily to do with human beings, but it's both settlements. One is more like a city, yes. Another is more like a town or a village. I see.
Right.
Thank you.
Adil Qureshi, please ask your question.
Ji, Assalamualaikum, Dr. So, so this trial of Basa and Zara, do we have any historical records that show that Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu nation also went through this trial of Basa and Zara?
Oh yes. If you look at Medina, there were times in which it was struck with famine. I mean, it was in Mecca actually. The early part of the Prophet's ministry was quite distressful, and this is something which is mentioned in the Qur'an very explicitly, that the nations of all messengers of God, they are made to pass through special tests, and their companions too. And you can look through the Meccan period in which these trials came. They were corporal trials. Remember how Bilal was put on a black stone and he was dragged over this. You know, Ammar bin Yasir, the way he was tied to 4 camels and they were made to run in opposite directions, and there were all sorts of persecution. They had to leave Makkah twice to go to Taif. So all these corporal and financial sort of trials, they were afflicted. I mean, they were afflicted with these trials.
So my understanding of the ayah is that these trials are actually for the disbelievers and the non-believers, and not for the people who have believed and how they are getting punished or prosecuted.
No, this is something which the Quran expressly says. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ. And this is in Surah Baqarah. And addressing the companion that you shall be definitely put into different tests. بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْجُوعِ, that is famine. وَالْخَوْفِ, which is fear. وَالنَّقْصِ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, reduction in your wealth. وَالْأَنفُسِ, and people will be killed in wars. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, in the production of your crops. This is a verse that addresses the companions, and this is like an established practice of God that He not only, you see that you should not use the word punishment for the companions. Basically, these are trials, and they are meant to test the metal. So the trials become a test for the companions, and they become a punishment for the disbelievers. Both are trials.
Right, sir. Thank you.
So, Dr. Saleem, I have a chat question. There's one word I don't understand it, but anyway, I'll just read it out to you. Where did Moses want to take Bani Israel with him? Apparently, Moses did not give dawn to Pharaoh, but just asked him to let Bani Israel go with him. I don't know what dawn means, but dua. Okay. Did not give Bani Israel. Apparently, Moses did not give dua to Pharaoh or dawa to Pharaoh, but just
Dawa.
asked him to take
Dawa.
Dawa.
Okay.
Dawa means to
Oh,
invite.
dawa is an invitation.
So
Okay.
this is what I explained earlier on. So you see, you must understand that the account of Moses must not be understood from just one place. It is here that you think that as if Dawa was not given and he just wanted to take the Israelites away. No, if you look at other instances and other surahs in which the tale of Moses is mentioned, you'll find that this is something that came later on. He first of all invited them. He said that you have become a god yourself. What is the argument that you have that you have become a god? And if you look at, for example, Surah Taha and some of the other places where the tale of Moses is discussed, you'll find that he's addressing the hierarchy in the most fiercest of ways, and he's asking them and telling them that how come they believe in the Pharaoh as God, and the Pharaoh himself also is addressed. So the reason is that at times we draw a conclusion from one particular aspect or one particular instance of its mention, and that would be erroneous. So you must look up all the instances in which this account is mentioned.
Okay. Siddiqa, please ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I think my question is more about asking for your further insight on this. So, as you were explaining the verses, it feels like the Pharaoh witnessed obviously clear signs, and yet he rejected Moses. Is this something that demonstrates rational recognition of truth is insufficient without moral humility? Like, is that what we are, or is that just one of the highlights, or would you call that one of the most important highlights?
No, I would say that this was the psyche of a dictator, of a despotic ruler, of a tyrant. So you see, arguments don't work with him or with such people. So they had to be shown something out of the ordinary. Arguments would not have worked with them. So this was like Moses actually securing dialogue, an opportunity to have a dialogue with the Pharaoh. So the miracles and the sign that he came, and of course that is the first thing that he showed to the Pharaoh, was something that could have made the Pharaoh at least give an ear to what Moses had in mind. So that is what I understand. That it's not something that was given as a miracle in the sense that it was something that was given so that the Pharaoh would be just cornered. No, that is not the case. He would not have been cornered at all. So all that it did secure for Moses was an opportunity to at least have a conversation. So the ensuing conversation was the real thing that is mentioned elsewhere in the Quran.
Thank you so much. So if we kind of apply it to current events and just the world right now, would it work in saying that when someone is morally blind, if you may, then this could kind of...
Yes, so you see, a person who is arrogant, a megalomaniac, so to speak, someone who is full of himself. So such people, they need something extraordinary first to make them attentive. So to catch their attention, you have to do something extraordinary. But remember, for prophets of God, this extraordinary thing is always possible because they have God on their backs. Today, of course, the situation might be different. And all that you can understand from this is that people who are so arrogant that they don't want to listen to any sort of conversation. For them, you need to do something else just to make them attentive and just to have their focus, something more than that. And what can that be? Of course, this would depend on the situation, the time, and our own position and potential.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. So I have the chat question, the last question that I asked you. I think there's a first part to it. Where did Moses want to take Bani Israel with him?
So, as I said, this is something that is, it does seem that he just wanted to have them organized as a nation and to make them go to a place. And of course, that could only have been Canaan, which is Palestine. And so it seems that is the place that was at a distance of 3 days also. And so this is something that actually happened. It did happen later on. So when Moses was able to take them out, the Pharaoh pursued him, but he could not, of course, gain access. He was drowned. And so Moses was actually, he was successful in taking them. But what happened later on was that when he asked them to enter Canaan, they said that they refused to go. They said that there are people who are very tall and very strong. We will not enter that unless these people go away. And the historic words that they uttered are sublimely enshrined in Surah Maida when they said, "Fazhab anta wa rabbuka faqatila." You and your God go and have a fight with them. We are just going to stay put. So ultimately, this did not happen until Moses passed away. And it was only after his passing away that, under the command of Joshua and Caleb, who were his his substitutes after him, or the people who assumed power, only in their leadership were they able to enter Canaan. So ultimately, the destination was to take them to Canaan, or the land of Palestine, where a center of Tawheed could have been established, because God's scheme was that He wanted the Israelites as a nation to bear His message. And for this, it was essential that a model place would be created where they would dwell and, of course, be first educated and instructed and groomed, and then go out from that place to deliver the message of God.
Adil Qureshi, please ask your question.
Yes, sir. I would like to probably ask or rephrase my question again in the context of Ayah 94 onwards. If you want to pull it up, you can also do that if you prefer. So the Ayah 94 onwards says, in whichever settlement we send the Prophet as a messenger, we've inflicted its inhabitants with financial and corporal trials, so that they may show humility. So it does mean that it is referring to those people who were not showing humility, who were arrogant. Not the people like Bilal who had already believed, not the people like other Sahaba who had already believed.
So remember, this is for them. I mean, it's this trial that is mentioned here is for the opponents of the messenger. So this is one trial, but the Quran mentions that the believers also are made to go through a trial. And I just quoted the verse of Surah Baqarah in which the Sahaba are directly addressed and said, and this is of course a practice of God, that all the companions of God's messengers, God wants to prove their mettle, wants them to prove their own mettle, and so He puts them through these trials. So that is what is mentioned.
Absolutely. So those trials are definitely there as well, and those trials we already have the historic records of that, how they were persecuted and how they had to survive their iman, and how they had to migrate to Habsha and all. But these trials that these deniers or these disbelievers had to go through, are there any historical records of these? Yeah.
Oh yes, we have in the Bible several. So we know that the various trials came to the Israelites. Locusts were sent. They were sent various other forms. A lot of ailments were sent. If you look at the book of Exodus, you'll find that when the chapter on Moses arrives, that there is a detail given in which how these Israelites were put through various trials. There were bodily trials, there were physical trials, and there were trials of constraint as well. So you just pick up the book of Exodus and
but for the addressees of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it was my specific question for that. Was there a case where there was some famine in Mecca also?
Oh yes, we know there was a famine in Mecca and in Medina also. I'm not sure whether it was in Mecca or Medina, but yes, there was a famine. And so, as I said, the crops, they did not have enough produce in those times. And also there was a famine, and then of course there were losses that were, bodily losses. People lost their lives. People went through other trials and tribulations. So, I mean, both of these happened historically.
Right.
In
Thank you,
parallel.
sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
I have another chat question, Dr. Saleem. The miracle of staff turning into serpent and of the shining hand, what was it used? What was it used for?
Just to overawe the Pharaoh, just to make him understand that if he's the God and he thinks that he has powers, because who else was he? I mean, he thought that he is the incarnate of Sun God. He is the incarnate of Sun God, and he had tremendous powers. And of course, all that he had was those magicians who could do tricks and ploys. So before him, an actual miracle was produced, because the Pharaoh was incapable of producing any miracle. All that he could do was gather certain magicians and have some certain tricks being played. But in order to make him understand that he is facing someone who has extraordinary powers, he is not a normal human being. I mean, a normal human being cannot make convert a staff into a snake, or make his own hand shine in such a way. So these miracles were just meant to overawe the Pharaoh and his chiefs and make them realize that they are facing someone who has extraordinary powers, and he says that they are from God. So I mean, it was just a method to make them attentive to what Moses actually wanted them to convey, which actually would come after this. So once he had become attentive, we know from other instances in the Quran that Moses invited them to God, and he said that you have become a tyrant in your own self, and you have enslaved people, and you're doing wrong things. So all this charge sheet was presented by Moses. But once, and this only happened once, the Pharaoh became attentive to him due to these miracles.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saleem. When I do not see any raised hands or any chat questions at this time pertaining to the passage. If anybody has any questions, you can raise your hands now. Otherwise, we will be ending the session early if we don't have any questions regarding the passage that we've read today. So, Dr. Saleem, no more questions. We will reconvene, inshallah, next weekend for our regular session and for textual study of the Quran. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Saleem, as always, for your wisdom and for your guidance. We really appreciate you.